Good morning, mob family. Let me just get my other screen up. See if I can do this so I can get questions. Hello, Don. How are you? Hello, y'all. You know, I should know that name since it was in a book. Let's see. Morning, Darren. How is everyone today? Good? Got my death wish, Monty and strong mug, ready to go. Glad to hear you're doing okay, Don. Thank you, Darren. Really appreciate it. Let's see if anyone else is on. Excellent. Yes, we've had some pretty scorching days, and now we've had some pretty cool days, which is great because scorching days don't work for my metabolism. Welcome, Audrey. Where are you, Darren, that you're still waking up? It's 11 a.m. where I am. Oh, you see me eating one of my weaknesses. I don't eat much, but I discovered that I have one Valkyrie who comes in and just snatches these because they're special dark, and that's her preference. Good morning, Jenny. Here, I have some for you. Here you go. Yes, it is, but I don't eat much of it. But I need to have this much because I have little ones who, well, one little one who I started seeing the supply dwindle quite rapidly because she likes it so much. I didn't lift this morning. I was up a little late helping one of the Valkyries with homework. And then if I'm not in bed by a certain time, lifting gets postponed. Hello, Patricia. Good morning. Yeah, I know how that is, Darren. If you get a little too deep into that sleep, you're not gonna get up. You could always refossilate with some death wish. Hello, Carolyn. I don't think I said hello to you, but hello, welcome. Well, at this point right now, if I'm not mistaken, John and a few of the crew and PPD are in Scotland. So if they get to see this, have a good time in Scotland. They're at 20 books, 50K Scotland right now. So they're having a good time over there. I was supposed to go, but my schedule was like, I got to get Monty and Strong out, and I have a few other things I want to try and get out between now and the end of next month. So it's getting a little crazy. Just for this time of the year, it gets a little crazy. I've postponed a few trips just to make sure I can keep up with my schedule. Let's see who else wants to join us. So do you guys have any questions? I think I can answer a few. And you've been participating in the post, which is fantastic. Learning so much more about all of you. So that's been great. We've kind of stepped away a little bit from coffee and only coffee. As much as I love coffee, it's good that we have other discussions as well. How many words do I try to write every day? I try to write no less than 2,000 or 2,500 words a day if I'm working on one project. If I'm working on another project, like multiple projects, I try not to do multiple projects at the same time, but it's the same. I try to hit 2,500 for each project a day. At that rate, 2,500 to 25, I can do a book in a month. So if I do multiple projects, like writing in the morning and writing in the afternoon, I could do 2 books a month with a nice, comfortable pace, living life, not losing my mind. If I'm really behind, then I can do 5, 6, 8. The most I've done is 10K in one day, but your brain suffers after that. So I try to keep it at 2,500, Darren. Yes, Carolyn, I need to hide my candy stash better. You're right. She has this incredible sense of smell that's ridiculous. This is the same Valkyrie that finds my Warden bag. So I did it in a Brussels sprouts bag. They love Brussels sprouts and broccoli and all other kinds of vegetables. So that won't work. Patricia, the writing is coming along really well. I'm in the point now in Monty and Strong 9 where I don't know if I'm going to say too much, but it's going to get dicey. So it's good. It's good. Hello, Dolly. Hola. Yes, Cynthia, you have arrived. Fantastic. Hello, Mary. Good move, Darren. Get some Death Wish. You'll be good. Trust me. Yeah, they're only doing, Carolyn, they're only doing this 20-book Scotland once. Michael Anderley said he's not doing another one over there. So the ones who are there are lucky indeed. Morning, Mark. Well, morning for me, afternoon for you. Let's see. Hello, Linda. Hello, Liz. There are people who are more prolific than I am, Carolyn. I just try to be really structured about it. But yeah, there are some people who write, oh, wow, really, really fast. Hello, Kenneth. Do I practice Tai Chi? I am actually looking to practice Tai Chi. I practice kata and karate really slowly, so it's very much like Tai Chi. Patricia. Gemma, have fun. Oh, yeah, the tube. Yay. Enjoy the tube, Gemma. I had fun when I was there. Welcome, Mike. Yes, Mary. You work up to 2,500 like anything else. I started with 500, then 1,000, then 1,500. So you build it up. Yeah. No, I don't do any editing as I go along, Carolyn, because that just slows the process down. What I do is I'll write. And then what I usually do is once I finish for the day, the next day, I'll start the previous chapter. I'll read it just to kind of get back into the flow, especially if I'm writing multiple projects. And I'll start the previous chapter. I'll read that, pick up the thread from there, and I'll keep going. But I try not to do any editing before, as those who've done art teams can tell you about my comma allergies. Yeah, so welcome, Dan. Good morning. I don't know if I said good morning, Jenny, but good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. Yeah, on the underwear draw. Yeah, that wouldn't make them safe, Carolyn. My Valkyries are ridiculous when it comes to that. Yes, Patricia, dicey is great. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are gonna like the diciness, but it is dicey. Carolyn, I think it was I don't know for certain why, but they said the same thing about Bali and a few other places. I think a lot of it has to do with Craig's availability, his health. It's a lot to manage, and having multiple conferences in different places, it just gets a lot. And Craig Martell, who does organize the 20 books to conferences, lives in Fairbanks, Alaska. So any travel for him is a lot of travel, and he has to watch his health. So I think it's a lot of that, and I think it's also not everyone can make it to Scotland. So they did the 20 books to London, and I think they stopped that as well because Mark Dawson's out there, and then the London Book Expo book fair is out there, and they didn't want to compete. So I think it's interesting. It's going to shrink to just 20 books Vegas, but also explode because 20 books Vegas is just getting bigger every year, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, so that's probably why. I'll see if I can find one, Darren. It's hard out here in New York. Tai Chi is big, but it's also small. It's interesting. And I'd like to find a really good instructor for something like that. Yeah. Yeah, Davina would kill me, Mark, if I just wrote and then threw a box of commas at it. Trust me. Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, I don't know if we can carry a box of commas. So, oh, what does my T-shirt say? It says, "Pain lets you know you're still alive." That's it. Yeah, that's what my T-shirt says. Yes, Carolyn. Especially when it comes to dark chocolate, they have no boundaries whatsoever. No, they don't come in boxes, Mark. I wish they did, then I could have extra, but no, they don't. Yeah, Carolyn, he's his health. Craig is usually very good. I mean, he really watches himself, but the conferences take it out of you. I think he has something he calls conference rot or something like that, where he always gets sick around the conferences, and so I think he's really cutting down how many of these things he's doing. Plus, Vegas is getting really big. I think I won't don't I'm not certain on this number, but I think it's 1,500 attendees next year. So we're already talking about 2020, and 2019 hasn't happened yet. So yeah, it's getting crazy. 20 bucks to Vegas. Oh, that's awesome. Good afternoon, Dan, Mr. Awesome. That's awesome, Jenny. Send it to her randomly. That'd be awesome. Hello, Joe. Joeaches. I promise I will always call you that from now on, Joe. Yeah. Welcome, Robert. CC, how's it going? I hope you're gonna be my bodyguard this year at 20 Books Vegas, CC. You know, that way everyone will be like scared. I will be at FenCon this year, Audrey, which is September, I want to say, middle to end of September, and I will be at 20 Books Vegas for sure. Yeah, for sure. Those are definite. There's some other ones that are there that I'm looking at the availability. My schedule is really crazy, and really what I'd like to do is just write and do other things. And traveling takes up my writing time, so I'm trying to limit the travel. Hello, Julie. Yes, Carolyn. Anything that has rot in it, gotta stay. Yeah, con crud. There you go, Mary. That's it. Con crud. Sounds just as bad as conference rot. So yeah. Yeah, Mark. Dark chocolate and Warden bags are dangerous with my girls. Valhalla chocolate. There you go. I have to create some for Simon, and I'll make sure to credit you, Cynthia. And thank you for sharing that quote about Rutger Hauer and Blade Runner. That was, we're gonna miss Rutger. He was a great. He did some great characters. So yeah, but yeah, Valhalla chocolate. I'm gonna make sure that's in the next Monty, in this current Monty and Strong book. Valhalla chocolate. It'll be right up there with the coffee. For certain. Yeah. Yeah. FenCon, exactly, Meryl. That's where I'll be. Yeah, I'm the Toastmaster, whatever that is. I've never been a Toastmaster before. I think I'm the one who presents the people who are going to participate, or I introduce other authors. But this is something that's been done by Jim Butcher and a few other very well-known authors. So I'm very honored to be Toastmaster. I'm still trying to figure out how they contacted me to be Toastmaster, but I intend to do my best at Toastmasting. Yes, I saw Rutger Hauer in Blind Fury. He was excellent in it. So it was great to grow up in that era with people like Rutger Hauer and Blade Runner and Blind Fury, and these actors who were amazing at what they did. Yeah. Something to do with bread products. What are we talking about, Mark? Ooh, yes, a lemon cake would go fantastic, Rosalind. Send me a piece, please. I don't really eat much sweets, but I'll definitely eat that. I don't do cakes too much. I'll do raspberry Danish from Entenmann's, but yeah. Wow, let's see. Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, I don't know what a Toastmaster does, but I hear it's awesome. Gemma, I've been to London twice. I really love London and England as a whole. And there was an opportunity to go this year, but I'm not going to be able to go this year. But I do want to go back. Yeah, there are a few pubs I've missed, a few areas I've missed, and so definitely I have to go back to London. Plus, Monty and Strong need to revisit London, and so yeah, the areas that need redecoration, is that what we're calling it now? Renovation, alteration. Yeah. Oh, marketing. So, Darren, why don't you kind of expand on that question a bit so I could kind of answer it? No, Mark, not that kind of bread products. Toastmaster for a conference is a little different. I don't think I have to deal with bread. Hello, Bill. Next time I go, more pub crawling, for sure. Upgrades. Upgrades reminds me of the Matrix Reloaded for some reason, Carolyn. Yeah, Hull. I was told about Hull, Mike, and Wales. I have to go to Wales. The problem with Wales, as we know, is pronouncing streets in Wales. Do you imagine me typing out some of the streets and locales in Wales? Most of the readers would be like, oh, he must have fallen asleep at the keyboard and just randomly typed these letters. So somehow I'm going to have to get the phonetics for Wales locations. Welcome, Ian. Robin, I don't think I've announced it because we're still in the preliminaries, but I'll be announcing it soon because it's September. And so August is right around the corner. We're about a week away. So they're going to start building it up in August for September. Yeah. So if any of you are in Texas near FenCon, at this point, I don't even actually know where it is in Texas, but I know it's in Texas. If you're nearby, please swing by. We'll have some coffee. Okay. So for you authors, what type of adverts seem to bring in more sales? Best bang for limited buck, or do you see best marketing just from groups and word of mouth? Word of mouth will always be the best kind of marketing, always, bar none. I use Facebook and Amazon, mostly Facebook. I don't really use Instagram too much because I use it more for my personal thing. Facebook, what it comes down to, you don't need to spend a lot on Facebook. I strongly recommend Mark Dawson's Facebook courses because Facebook ads for authors. But I recommend them because he really breaks this down. But you don't need a lot. And what you really need for Facebook ads is a great image and great copy. If you could kind of get those two, then obviously writing a great book. But if you can get those two, you can spend $5 a day, which ends up being $150 a month on ads, on one ad. And that can generate some interest for your book. But really word of mouth, having an amazing group like the Mob will do it. If you can cultivate that, if you can have a Mob family to talk about your books and your writing and just share, then you are way ahead of most authors in terms of that. And that's your most important marketing, is getting people to talk about your books. And be generous, like talk about other people's books, you know? So I hope that answered your question, Darren. Hello, Diane, welcome. Yeah, Mike, I've seen what the Welsh is, and I can't read the Welsh. So there you go. Yeah. In Dallas, thank you, Robin. Shropshire. I hope I said that right, Aaron. Yes, definitely. I know, guaranteed, the next time I go to England, I am going to Wales. So, yes. Tongan. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know about Tongan. I'm not doing anything in Tongan, Bill. That's just from your description. It sounds like it's not going to happen. Oh, well, Joiches, if I get thrown into the tower, I'll make sure to have you guys on speed dial for sure. Welcome, Leslie. I never underestimated the power of bookworms, both positive and negative. And what I mean by that is, if a book is good, sometimes you don't need a good cover, you don't need an awesome blurb, you don't need a lot of marketing. If the story is good and people are reading it, people will talk and people will share and will tell you, like you've heard me say it, you've got to go watch this movie, you've got to go read this book. Bookworms have power in terms of, and I consider myself one, where if you find something you really enjoy, you will share it with your fellow bookworms. Likewise, if you find something you don't enjoy as much, it's the same thing. Like, oh, really don't? That first book was okay, but the second one was, ugh. Same power. So it's really important. For me, the most important thing is to write a good story. Now, quantifying what a good story is a whole different thing, because that's subjective, right? Where did I get the idea for the planes and spiritual wars? That's not new. Planes, Darren, are, I mean, it's been around for as long as urban fantasy and fantasy has been around. So I just figured the Spiritual Warriors was an interesting project for me because it was really my first time trying to write a series. And so it's, my wife calls it, it's like a smorgasbord of everything. And yeah, it was, I kind of really just, it was like what they call gumbo of urban fantasy. It has everything in it, martial arts, magic, planes, all this. Yeah, it was just a mix of everything. But I'm really glad I wrote it because then after I was able to hone some skills there, and then I moved to Sepia Blue, which I will finish, guys. And then I got closer and closer to Monty and Strong with each successive story. And so Ava James' Chronicle of the Modern Mystics has 2 more books that need to be done, and Blur has 2 more books that need to be done, the John Kane stories. But Monty and Strong kind of took over everything. Recommend reader links to another author. Yes, please, Audrey. If they have any questions, send them to me. If I can't answer the questions, I know this guy named John who can probably answer all questions for her. Darren, I wrote the first book of Spiritual Warriors, then I wrote Blur, and then I wrote, what else? I wrote 3. Oh, and I wrote Rise of the Night, which is the first of Sepia Blue. Don't write this way if you're an author, because it's 3 different series, 3 different first books. If you're going to write a series, try to write the series. Then I went back to Spiritual Warriors and I wrote out the whole series. Thank you, Audrey. I had a lot of fun writing it, even though I didn't know what I was doing in the moment. But it was a lot of fun to write. And the first book was longhand that my wife had to try and decipher because it was longhand. I wrote it on yellow legal pads, and she deciphered it and edited it. And I think after that, she needed a stronger prescription for glasses because I probably tortured her with my handwriting. It's like reading hieroglyphics. So yeah, so if you're gonna write, if you're an author and you're gonna write a series, write the entire series. Don't let it get sidetracked. I was talking with someone about this yesterday, I think Tammy, about The Wheel of Time, where Robert Jordan passed away before it was done, and Brandon Sanderson is the one who finished The Wheel of Time. But in the interim of writing The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan wrote 3 other books, I think, in romance. So he could have taken and finished The Wheel of Time. So try to finish your series if you're an author. It's just better for the readers because we will remember as readers. Hello, Leslie. Yeah, you say that now. Thank you for being so kind, Dolly. From Spearfish, is that South Dakota, Joanne? Joiches? Have I ever tried speaking to a tape recorder and having someone? Yeah, Mary, I have. I hate the way my voice sounds, so I try not to torture anyone with my voice. Bye, Karen. Thank you for reading. I'm sorry you have to leave early, but it'll be recorded, so if you want to watch this later, you can. Yes, so Raven, which are like werewolves. I had a dog a long time ago named Raven, and I just broke up Raven into Raven, and that's how the Raven came. Critters are actually mythological creatures. I'm not gonna say what it is, but just look it up. They're awesome. Yeah. See, the closest I came to that, Mary, the directly dictating is using dictation software, and yeah, even the dictation software doesn't work for me well. I mean, it works. The software itself works. it doesn't work well for my brain process. I have music when I write, and the whole open quote, such and such and such and such, comma, close quote, said, whatever, whatever, it really breaks up my flow, so that when I'm writing, all those commands to the dictation software kind of throw me off. And I've done it the other way, where it's no quotes, no nothing, and still it throws me off. And then I have to go back and edit it, and so now I have to go back and edit what I said, and then I'm adding another step, and it just gets to be a lot. Thank you, Julie. I'm glad someone likes it. I mean, I'm sure there are other people who like it, but I'm not one of them. Maybe I should practice some James Earl Jones type things. Yes, Mary. Real people can insert that. Yeah, I know. I've done it without the grammar, without the quotation, and just reading, speaking. And then I know where all the quotes and commas and, well, okay, I won't say commas. I retract that. I know where all the quotes and periods and attributions go, but even so, it's adding another step to the writing, which I don't want to do. I'd rather just be able to write, and I can do it fairly quickly with the keyboard. Yeah, let's see. Maintaining a balance between developing a character's depth and keeping them from being overpowered. I see some authors. Yeah. So here's what happens with some characters, Darren, and just in general. You know, you start creating this character, they get stronger with each book, and stronger and stronger and stronger, and before you know it, they're God. And so in order for them to have any kind of difficulty, the enemies have to be godlike as well. And after all that gets boring, because what are you going to do to challenge or to make the story interesting if they become, you know, omnipotent or all powerful? So you have to keep your characters grounded in the sense that they could have power, but the power has to come with a cost. One, you can't just have power just for the sake of having power, but also you've got to modulate that power so that they always have something that's stronger than them. So, like, let's say in the case of Monty and Strong, we know Simon barely uses magic. He's just starting to get into magic, but his magic is, as Peaches would say, it's bad. It's horrible, right? Monty gets strong, but there are archmages, which, you know, archmages are much stronger than Monty. Or Monty runs up against a person like TK, which can trounce him. And he has Uncle Dex, which is, you know, orders of magnitude stronger than he is. And so although Monty is strong and can do a lot, there are beings and people within the world of Monty Strong who are much stronger than he is. And he acknowledges it. Like, he'll say, that spell or that casting, that rune is about a century away from before I can get good at it. You know, and so that's really key. It's important to keep your characters, I don't want to say humble, but keep them grounded, because that way they don't get too strong. And then you're just writing about, you know, godlike beings. Like Hades can take on Monty with a thought and take him out, because that's how strong Hades is. But then even Hades, if you think about it, Hell Hath No Fury, even Hades needed Monty and Simon's and Peach's help, right? I won't give away in case you haven't read it, but, you know, so even characters that are really powerful reach out to Monty and Strong for help, because they are smart and they know what they're doing. And yes, they're a bit destructive, but they get the job done. Welcome, Laura. Welcome, Davina. Hello. Amanda, let's see. I have Monty and Strong is slated right now for 20 books. And I think just like Jim Butcher is slated Dresden for more than 20 books, and he's on book 16. I don't know if I could ever get tired of Monty and Strong, because it's such a rich world. And there's so many places they can go to and do things, even though I keep them mostly in New York because I don't mind blowing up my city. But if the NSA is hearing that, it's in a book. Monty and Strong can go anywhere and do it. Right now they're in Japan, chasing after Chi. So I don't think I can get tired of the world of Monty and Strong, ever. What I do as a break is I'll write tangent stories, which is why you see me start so many series and start so many stories. Those are my breaks. I'll write a story, still set in New York, but completely different character, completely different story. Those are my breaks from Monty and Strong. And as long as I do that, Monty and Strong always remains fresh to me. Let's see. Hello, Lori and Amanda Smithson. Welcome, Craig Zimic, Dragon. Audrey, I don't know who Uncle Rex is, but Uncle Dex, for sure. You will see more. Uncle Rex could be his evil twin. Morning, Benna. Yeah, I know it's autocarrot. Yeah. Yeah, even avatars need a focus of humanity. They do. They need to how to stay grounded. It's important, Craig. I think it's also what it does is that it creates a point where readers can relate. Like I couldn't really relate to Monty if he was all about just he's a mage and that's it. You know, he likes tea. He's irascible. He's cranky. Um, I would say he cares about Simon fondly, but Simon also irritates the hell out of him, and that's what makes Monty Monty. You know, he'll go to the wall for Simon, but Simon also annoys the hell out of him because Simon is just Simon, and vice versa. I think Simon is the same way. Simon sees Monty as family, but Simon is probably really, really, really aggravated by Monty most of the time because Monty is just so proper about certain things. You know. So yeah, that's key. That's what makes us relate to these characters. We all have people like that in our lives, who they're in our lives, they aggravate us, and we care about them. How do I decide how many books in a series? That's a hard one, Darren. I want to say the series almost kind of does that. Like I'll know what series are a trilogy and what books are just kind of ongoing. Like the Assassin's Apprentice right now is just a trilogy right now. Same thing with Division 13 right now is slated to be a series, but I think that one might be ongoing because of Monty and Strong. There are a few that are going to be just a trilogy, and there are a few that are going to just be a lot. Like Sepia Blue is 5 books, so I've written 3, and I know there's 2 more to write. So things like that. But I kind of say the story kind of tells you. You kind of know. The same way you know how long a story should be. Like I've had this conversation about should it be 50,000? Should it be 30,000? Like, and the story kind of tells you. I always aim for about 50, and the story kind of tells you where to end. Like I've been at 46, and it's like that's the end of the story. I mean, there's no more. Everything else would be padding, and the one thing I don't ever want to do is pad a story. So if it's at 46, it's at 46. If it's at 70, then it's at 70. The story somewhat dictates the length. Right, Davina. Yeah. I'd rather they use ingenuity than just raw power. And especially if the beings that they're facing are stronger than them. Like I like the way they got away from Julian in what's the book? Blood is Thicker. Even though Julian was an archmage and they blew up his house, they were able to get away pretty much unscathed because of how they got out of the house. But Julian was much stronger than they are. So things like that. Yeah, New Yorkers marry. Yeah, that's why I put that caveat. Let's not explode too. I'm a New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York, so I'm allowed to say I love blowing up New York. Have I ever considered writing a non? Yeah, not really, Darren. I'm writing a thriller, a straight thriller, but that's set in the real world, not in a fictional world. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. So. How old was I when I started writing and kind of writing, not specific? I used to play a lot of D&D, and I was the DM. I was the dungeon master, so you have to kind of write stories, even though it kind of happens organically. So I want to say 13, 14, around there is when I started really getting into Dungeons and Dragons heavily, and we'd play every weekend. And then around 16, I started becoming a DM, and I had all the Gary Gygax books and the Dungeon Master's guides. And I was writing out entire stories for the dungeon. Sorry, I want to say around 16. Yeah, and it does develop over time. When I read the Spiritual Warriors, now I cringe because there's so much I could actually fix or say differently and make tighter. So I try not to read my old work for that reason. Yes, yes, Craig, like very close siblings. That's exactly what they are. Can't stand each other, can't live without each other. That's exactly what very close siblings are like. No, Sepia Blue will be finished, Davina. That is definitely something that has to happen. But yes, I'm just wondering how to finish it in a way that's satisfactory to the story, because Sepia is an amazing character, and I have to do her justice. Yes, and exactly like that. How did I start writing with John? John, as Noah would say, John harassed me or something like that. John had the PPD, and he invited me. He was very gracious about it when he started it. He's like, "Do you want to come in and write in this world with me?" And initially I was like, no, not because I didn't want to, but because I had so many things going on. I still have a lot of things going on. But he kept saying, listen, come on, I've got this person, this person, this person. You're the only one that hasn't joined in the world. And eventually I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so he was really great about the fact that he kind of gave me my own sandbox to play in with the Badlands, because it allows me a lot of latitude to write without impacting the other authors that are in the PPD. If you look at the PPD, the Badlands is kind of its own place off to the side. It doesn't really impact or touch the other precincts, because it doesn't really have a precinct in the top side, as John calls it. It's in the Badlands. So by doing that, he kind of gave me latitude to write in the PPD, but also kind of write in a separate area in the PPD. But I've known John for a long time. I've known John since way before the PPD, because his wife is my editor, and so she was the one who introduced me to John and said, you need to talk with him. And John is one of the reasons my books are as successful as they are now, because his editor, his wife, my editor, took the mangled stuff I gave her and made them legible and awesome, and then he really helped me with the marketing. So yeah, I owe a lot to John. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, exactly, Davina. Hey, Noah, welcome. Yes, Dungeon Masters for the win. Dungeons and Dragons was awesome, especially when I started it. It was incredible. I mean, I know it's still going on now, because I know people who still host D&D Dungeons. Yes, he brought me over to the dark side, because one of the reasons why I didn't join the PPD, Carolyn, is because I didn't think I could write in the PPD style, which is a lot, I don't want to say dirtier, it's raunchier, it's hilarious. I never consider myself really funny that way, maybe more tongue-in-cheek, but the PPD books are really, really, really funny. And I didn't think I could write that way, but John and I collaborate really well. And so, yeah, and then, there's a lot more cursing, there's a lot more vulgarity, which fits in those stories. And I don't usually write that way. So for me, it was a kind of a change in terms of writing, but it's a lot of fun. I love writing in the PPD. It's fun. Yes. Yeah, Davina, I like playing too. I don't mind being the DM, but I haven't played in decades. It's at halfway. No, and then that's when you have them roll, Davina, when they try to destroy your dungeon and everybody dies from a lightning strike. End of game. Yes, what happens in the Badlands stays in the Badlands. Hello, Jim. Yes, the Logsdon family is near and dear to my heart. So yeah, they are amazing, and not only are they amazing, as people who share, people who give. John is incredibly generous with his time and his knowledge, sometimes to his own detriment, because he will stay with you and walk you through stuff until you actually absolutely understand it, and he'll go the extra mile for you every time. So that's one thing that I'm always appreciative and grateful for. I hope that shark fight was good, Noah. Welcome, Jim. Yeah, I studied D&D psychology. It's very interesting. Yes, D&D. Okay, Darren. Chapter 34 was John, Audrey. I didn't write chapter 34. Actually, when it comes to the PPD, I'm just going to give the disclaimer right now. I just write the action. And I write very much like I write Monty and Strong. Action, tension, things happening. And then I hand it off to John. And all of a sudden it comes back, wow, full of profanity. So I don't write any of that profanity. It's all John. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yes, they had cookies. Hello, Robert. Welcome. Yeah, I'm not going to do a online D&D session. When would we do it? Since you know how many people we'd have to coordinate from around the world, that would be awesome. He is an amazing guy. When we first met, John was like, he was like this grouchy, cantankerous grandpa, although I'm older than he is. And he was like, listen, this is what it is. I'm gonna give you instructions. It's this, and this. You've got to do this, and this. But if you're not gonna listen, we're not gonna do this. I think because he had already tried to help other authors, and everybody was saying yeah, and then didn't do anything he suggested. And it's interesting because John is an alumni of one of the first courses of Mark Dawson. So the stuff that he's showing you how to do is Mark's stuff, but when I did Mark Dawson's course initially, it wasn't with John, it was on my own. But then when I spoke to John, he took Mark's course and deconstructed it in such a way that I was able to understand and implement a lot of the things. And then John walked me through, this is how you do an ad. Even though I had done it with Mark, John had made it understandable. And this is how you work this. So by the time he got to me, he had already tried that with a few authors, and I think they just they said they wanted to do it, but they didn't really want to, or they really weren't committed. And he was like, okay, I'm kind of done with you guys right now. So when he approached, we finally talked, he was like, if you're not gonna listen, we're not gonna do this. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. So that's my condition. And so I listened, and doing really well because of it. And we still talk, and we constantly talk and do things like that. So yeah. I am currently, Carolyn, in Osaka, Japan, and there's an Osaka castle there that's going to see some damage, unfortunately. And then I'm going to Hokkaido, and there's a tunnel between. So Japan is actually a series of islands. So there's the mainland, and then there's Hokkaido, and there's a tunnel that goes from Japan proper, the mainland, to Hokkaido, which is called the Seiken Tunnel. Unfortunately, that might see some damage too. Yeah. Davina, depends on how he learns. So does he learn through auditory cues, through kinesthetic cues, or through visual cues? If you have to find out which way he learns best, and then walk him through in that manner. So if it's kinesthetic, you have to kind of place him in his moves. If it's auditory, you got to talk him through it, and you got to do it slow. And then if it's visual, you kind of have to have his instructor do it, and then have Ayrton copy. So he's watch and mimic. So, and sometimes it's a combination of both, or three. So you got to find what way he learns, and then use that methodology to teach him, and he'll get it, because I've taught blind children how to do kata. So it's all depends on finding out how to do it. Yes, Glorious Lies, Craig. Yes, kind of, Jethro. If I had to quantify him that way, yes. Yes, Carolyn. He was one of the first alumni of Mark Dawson's course. And of course, he's taken that knowledge and expanded on it, which is why you have reader links, right? And he's learned a lot. And John is not static when it comes to learning about marketing. He's constantly kind of researching, seeing what works, what doesn't work, A/B testing. I mean, he's constantly doing that. And more importantly, not only is he constantly doing that, but then he'll come up and say, I think you guys should try this, or look, this is what worked for me, or look, this is how I did this description. What do you think about? And he'll bounce ideas, and because he's always sharing what he's doing. So yeah, it's amazing. The best single teaching from Dawson. It's scalable. You start with $5 a day, which is the minimum that you can do, let's say on a Facebook ad, but it's scalable. So right now, Mark Dawson spends upwards of $30,000 on his ads for Facebook. Sounds like a big amount, except when you realize he's taking home about $140,000 in profit or in revenue. So it's a scale. So if you spend $5 and you make $100 a month, that's a great investment. If you spend $30,000 and you make $150,000, it's the same thing on a larger scale. So that's one of the greatest things, and he's always said it. Start off low and scale up. Go gradual, because you will spend a lot of money too soon and you won't have any revenue. So you got to scale. Bye, Rosalind. Don't forget me to send me some cake. Yes, Carolyn. I don't know who it was. I think it was Barbara Heminger, who in one of the art books, I think it was The Perfect Cup, she said there wasn't enough destruction. So I'm going to make sure there's enough destruction. Yeah. Thank you, Noah. Definitely. Yeah, I have pictures online. I got so many pictures. It's awesome. And yes, the tunnel is going to get kind of trashed, amongst other things. So Davina, you want to have him either have his instructor do it or have him look online they have the katas broken up, the forms broken up in almost like slides, and then have him take each position one by one. Yeah. The coffee in Japan, Jim, from my understanding, is pretty excellent. Hello, Karen. Welcome. Even though they're a tea culture, coffee has taken over a lot of Japan because coffee is big. So I hear the coffee is excellent in Japan. I haven't personally tasted it, but maybe Noah knows. Noah's out there. Maybe he tasted it. Yeah. Yeah, see, Cynthia can tell you. It is great. And I'm sure, like Chado, which is the tea ceremony, they take a serious respect for the ritual of making coffee, because in the Japanese culture, it's not only the product, but it's the presentation and the process that's just as important as the end product. And so I know that they take, like, Chado is a whole thing. It's a whole ritual. Things are done a certain way. The whisk is a certain way. The setup is a certain way. So I'm sure in coffee, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Craig. That's like the key. I mean, it's almost a given, but sometimes it has to be said. You write your book, you put it together. It's once it's done, it's a product. It's not just a book. Yes, I know we get attached to the characters, and yes, we get attached to the story. But as an author, you got to have your creative hat and then your business hat. And when you wear your business side, your book is a product. So that means it has to have a great cover. It has to have excellent editing. Even the price point has to be correct. It has to be in the right genre. And so all of that packaging factors into how well your book does. If I market Monty and Strong to military sci-fi readers, they're going to look at me like, what the heck is this? Why are you putting this in front of us? We don't read this. And vice versa. So you have to know what you're doing in that terms. And like Craig said, when you're marketing, you have a decent product selection before boosting the marketing costs. You have to have, and this is why it's kind of standard practice that you can't just market one book, because most readers want to see that you're going to be writing more. So let's say you just wrote one book and you want to market that one book. It's harder unless you're a phenomenal writer and this is a breakout seller kind of thing. And it has happened, Hugh Howey and a few others who've written one book and it blew up. But that doesn't always happen. So it's good to have a few books available, because someone who likes your first book will then go and see what else has this person written, and they'll get any other book that you have. So that's really important, yeah. So Jenny, along those lines, that's where Damned comes in, because they're the Decon. Let me see if I remember the acronym. Decon and Magical Null's Elite Division. These are the people who clean up after Monty and Strong, and they're gonna have their own book, their own setting, their own stories, and everything. The whole series. And yeah, they deal with the insurance cost. So yeah. I am not visiting Japan, Jim. Noah went to Japan, but I am not visiting Japan right now. No, and not in the foreseeable future either. Yes, Davina. No, I don't mind at all. We used to have an autism class in our dojo, and what we found was that those students, the class was always small, like 2 to 3 students max, because of the stimuli. You couldn't have too much. But also, those students needed a lot of kinesthetic work. You had to place them in. And the persons have to be, the people teaching that class, or whoever is involved, has to be patient, because there's going to be a lot of, oh, look, and distraction and short attention span. Oh, and I'm not going to do it now, but I'll do it later. So you have to be patient and work in time blocks, like 3 minutes of attention, 2 minutes of kind of free, motion, and then another 3 minutes of attention, and so forth and so on. But they do get it because their brains just think differently. That's all. They just they just have like a different operating system, but they get the moves. Yeah. I thank you for the invitation, Mark. Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yes. I'm not in Japan, but Monty and Strong are, like Davina says. They're going on a vampire hunt. They're not scared. And they're going to find a grumpy one. Oh, a very grumpy one. Yeah, a few grumpy ones, actually. What stops? What happened, Karen? Yeah, it's okay, Jim. We'll explain to you. Oh, how do I this the fantasy genre is enormous, Darren. So how do I see the different types of fantasy in the market now and in the future? Yeah, so urban fantasy, which is still in the fantasy genre, is a niche, I guess, if you want to call it that, even though it has dominated a lot of the market. But it's still a fantasy niche or subgenre, if you want to call it that. We're always going to have fantasy in our genres. Fantasy kind of is the engine for everything. Just have different niches. Right now, urban fantasy. I don't even want to say right now. I mean, Dracula is an urban fantasy, and Dracula's been around for as long as I've been reading. There's been Dracula, and you'll just have variations of that. Batman. There's a variation of Dracula, and Zorro, and so you'll have variations of these stories, but urban fantasy is pretty evergreen. There's always some kind of urban fantasy because people are fascinated by these characters set in urban settings with the supernatural involved. I think it'll always be strong in the market, urban fantasy. And high fantasy as well. I mean, even now, people are still reading Tolkien. I still have a fact. Good Omens is urban fantasy. And that was written how long ago? And so urban fantasy, it's always going to be strong. You just have to create a great story. That's the key. If you could write a good story, it really doesn't matter what you're writing. If you can write a good story, that's really the important thing. Write a good story, and of course, then the marketing. But if you don't have anything that's worth marketing, it's going to be hard. Because people are going to read it, like we discussed earlier with the bookworms. If you write a mediocre story, you can have the best cover done by the best cover artist. You can have a high-powered, one of the big five, pushing the marketing. But if the story is people are going to read it, and they're going to look at the packaging. It's great packaging, but they're going to say it was okay, but the story wasn't that great. And there go your sales. So the story is, you have to write a great story first. Let's see. Yes, Davina. Yeah, that's really key. They have to be patient, and they gotta know that they're just an autistic kid is just processing things differently. That's all it is. Their brains work differently, but they're getting the information. It's just the processes are different. There's nothing wrong. It's just that it's society says it's autism, and there's a whole stigma. But when you're teaching an autistic child, you just have to know how they're processing. And once you get that, they can learn the same thing as any other child. That's my belief. So, and it's been my experience. What do you want me to explain slowly, Jim? You're old and you get cranky easily. Oh, how did I start my memory palace? Oh, well, I have the collected works of Arthur Conan Doyle, the original. I have the book. And I first read about that. We're talking, wow, a long time ago. And so I started thinking about, this sounds like a great idea. I wonder if it's a real one. And I started looking about memory and how people remember things. And it is a real thing. A memory palace or a memory mansion or a memory house is an actual thing. And what you do is that you ascribe each room in the memory mansion, as large as you want it to be. Each room has an idea, but each room has to have a trigger. So let's say I want to remember about Valhalla chocolate, which was mentioned earlier. And now I'll think about a Hershey's dark chocolate, and that dark chocolate reminded me, oh, I want to think about chocolate. What kind of chocolate? So I'll think about Valkyries, Valhalla. Oh, Valhalla chocolate. Okay, great. And that's how you do it. You have to have triggers. And if you remember your triggers, the hard part is you got to make the triggers easy to remember so that you can remember what the triggers lead you to. It's like tying the string to remember something, but if you don't remember what you tied the string for, you're not going to remember what it's for. It sounds convoluted, but it is really easy. Let's see. So I started with small. I started this Memory Palace small, not that large. Maybe 10 items, 10 things, then 20 things. And now it's a lot more because if you think about how many stories I have and how many things I have to remember, obviously I have notes, but a lot of it I have in my head. So it's just a matter of keeping everything straight. So welcome, Rhiannon. The TV adaptation of Go. I want to say I know what that is, Jim, but maybe you want to explain it to me. Bye, Julie. Have fun at work. Yeah, I would imagine so, Jenny, because it's a strong tool, the Memory Palace. So I would imagine something similar, or a similar device, a mnemonic device is similar. Oh, Good Omens. Yes, I'm on episode 3, and so far I'm really enjoying it. And I've read the book, so I really enjoy it. I'm really glad that Neil Gaiman was part of the TV show, because you can see all the nods to Doctor Who and things like that. So yes. No, Davina, you don't need a decent memory to get a decent memory. You already have a decent memory. It's just practice. That's all it is. And again, it's very much like Ayrton. How do you remember? Do you remember visually? Do you remember auditorily, like hearing things? Or, how do you remember? Kinesthetically? Like, for example, some people can smell a fragrance, and it's really powerful, and certain memories will come back to you because of a fragrance you smelled. Like you remember your 3rd grade teacher all of a sudden because you smelled this perfume that she wore, and all these memories will come rushing back to you. So it all depends on what's strongest for you to remember. Yeah, visual cues, auditory cues in the dojo. Well, yes, exactly, Darren. Yeah. Yeah, so if you say Shomini Rei, you have to say bow to the center so they understand. And then you bow. Things like that. Okay, Joichas, have fun. You should read the Good Omen book, Jim, because he writes it with Terry Pratchett. And come on, it's Sir Terry Pratchett. So how could you not read it? It's amazing. But he writes it together. It's a collaboration between Gaiman and Pratchett, Sir Terry Pratchett. I also read American Gods, which I enjoyed, and that's only Neil Gaiman. And so, yeah, he writes well. I mean, it's Neil Gaiman, so I don't want to diminish that it's Neil Gaiman. It's like, oh yeah, he's okay. He's an amazing writer. But when it came to the adaptation, that was fantastic for Good Omens. Do you find yourself people watching and creating characters for the people you see? Not really, Jenny. My characters come to me pretty well formed, so I don't really create characters from people watching. But it's an interesting idea. I know a lot of authors who do that, or they ask the what if. What if this person was doing this? What if this person was doing that? Yeah. See, Davina, you have a lot of information in your head that you can access. You'd be surprised how much you can access. Bye, Audrey. Have a great day. Yes, it was. Take care, Darren. We'll see you in a bit. Yeah, it was American Gods was a great urban adaptation. And I really like Ian McShane. If I were going to cast Uncle Dex, it would be Ian McShane. So I haven't read the Nightside series, Jim. So is it good? Because I haven't done so many things I haven't read. I was looking at the list of books that people were putting up in the last post, and I was like, oh, wow, my TBR needs to increase by, I don't know, an order of 10. So yeah, so many things out there that are so good to read. Davina, I haven't read that game either. I heard that was excellent too, and he wrote another one recently, something about the house at the end of the street. So he's an excellent writer. Yes, Cynthia. I think Ian McShane would be a fantastic Uncle Dex. I'm going to see if I can get my people to contact his people so that when we have a film adaptation, he's free. That's what we have to do. Yeah, it's excellent. Excellent. All right, guys, we're at an hour, I think. Yeah, an hour. So I'm not going to stay on much longer because it's already been an hour. I'll have to pick up the night side books because, yeah, I don't have any other thing to do. Thanks, guys. Now I've got to pick up the night side books. Thanks. Really, thanks. Um, Please add it to the L3. Thank you, Davina. Do you ever second guess actions or events that come to you for a story, or do you go with it and figure out what to say? My stories, I very rarely ever second guess what I'm doing in the stories. I have overarching arcs, and within those arcs, like I'll write. I was speaking with an author, Mark, I believe, about outlining. My outlines are frameworks, so they're kind of broad, and I kind of know point A to point B. Actually, I start with point B, and then I work from point A to point B. Within there, I know what could happen, and some things do come up that surprise me, like, oh, that makes sense. But I try not to ever second guess. I'll follow it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's very rare it doesn't work. I make it work usually. Yes, Laura, it does go fast. Have I ever mushed? Cynthia, what is a mush? Like mush someone in the head, mush potatoes? What? Welcome, Yasmin. Yes, and Jim, please add the night side as an L3 to the mob so everyone can share in it, those who haven't read it. What does it mean to mush, Cynthia? I'm curious now. Like my brain gets mushy? What? Oh, multi-user shared hallucination text games. Oh, no, I don't think so. That reminds me of Zork. I have played Zork. The first video game I ever played was Zork, and it was all text. There was no graphics. I'm dating myself because the first video game was not a graphically generated video game. It was all text on a blue screen with white text, and it was Zork. It was an adventure game, and you typed in what you were doing. So I guess that would be the closest approximation to a mush. And I guess that was my first writing too. Some of my first writing was in Zork, even though it was directed or coordinated. But yeah, you had to use your imagination because everything was written. There were no graphics. Yes, yeah, the character creation process. Um, I do that with the books too. Once the characters are created, they kind of take on a life of their own, but you have to kind of wrangle them. You know? Yeah, Jenny Zork, way, way, way back on my. I'm trying to think what it was on. I want to say well, first it was PC, but then it was also, and I'm talking PC way back, but it was also, I had an Atari 2600, I think, that kind of played a version of Zork once it became graphically heavy. But it was a PC game that I hooked up to the TV because I didn't have a monitor. I just had my PC. The TV was the screen, and you just saw it was a body of text that you read, and that's it. And you had to figure out the clues. I also played a version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that was all text-based, and that was a nightmare figuring it out because you had to read the clues in the text. So yeah, that was fun. All right, guys, I'm going to give it about 10 more minutes. So if you have any questions, ask now, because the next Mob TV live event will be next month, since we're already on the 26th. We only had one this month because I was in Virginia. Yeah, that's an old one. Jenny Apple 2G. I remember those. Jeez. I never had Apple until recently, but I knew about all the versions that would come out. And I was always PC. I was always IBM, which broke down consistently, by the way. And you had to cannibalize it and get other parts so it would work properly. My Mac hasn't given me any problems, which is great. Oh. Let's see. Who is on my co-author wish list? Wow. Yes, we are dating ourselves, Jasmine. I would say I'm not really big on co-authoring, Noah, only because I'll put it like this. If I'm going to co-author with someone, it has to be a completely new world or a new story that's set in a whole new world. Because I don't want to jump into someone else's sandbox again. And even with John, we created the Badlands. He had the Badlands, but we created the Badlands for the story. So that's why I agreed to do that. But if I had to do that, I'd tell you probably Jim Butcher would be great to create a story with. Kevin Hearn, I'd love to do one with. Let's see. Yeah, definitely Butcher only because of Dresden. And he's the only one that I would jump into the Dresden universe. If I could bring Monty and Strong into the Dresden universe, that would be awesome. Oh my God, a TRS 80, Cynthia? Jeez. Wow. That's like ancient. Yeah, the Monkey Island games, right. Oh yeah, the floppy disk. Jeez, Davina, that's like ancient. Wow. I remember those floppy disks. Is another gift, yes. Tandy 1000. That's like in the Smithsonian at this point, right, Jim? The Tandy 1000. If Strong was a D&D character, he would be probably, I would say, a ranger. I want to say, because he kind of has a mix of things. So I would guess a ranger. I couldn't go thief, and no way would he be a paladin or a cleric or anything like that. So yeah. Oh, a Commodore 64, Davina. Yeah. Oh, Daniel Tiger. I haven't heard Daniel Tiger in forever because my kids kind of outgrew Daniel Tiger. Daniel Tiger just reminds me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood because I think that's what it is in an animated setting. Cynthia, my first set of D&D was one box. They only had the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is the big one. The Monster's Guide had not come out yet. I think I was playing when the first version came out, and we lost our minds with all the monsters. But the Dungeon Master Guide did appear. We had that in one box and just a few. Yeah, it was kind of like the bare bones of D&D. Cavalier, there you go. Yeah. Jim, you're in. Oh, so you're right next. You stand right next to the Tandy 1000. Is that what it is, Jim? Yeah, I thought it was based on Mr. Rogers, Darren. Sure. It sounds like it's very much the few episodes that I remember, and there were many, reminded me a lot of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which I grew up on. So that's why I made that correlation. Yeah, for sure. All right, 5 minutes, guys, and then we're out. Oh, see, his alignment. Simon has interesting alignment because he's not all good, but he has a really strong chaotic good. Can we have chaotic good? Is there a chaotic good? Is there still a chaotic good? He's not neutral, that's for sure, and he's not evil. So yeah, I don't think he'd go into torpor, Davina, because he's not a vampire. He would just kind of be the way he is. What I think would happen with him is you have to look at the psychological aspects of being that old and seeing all the people you know pass away, and what would happen to him. You know. So yeah, I can't see him being chaotic neutral. Simon is not neutral about anything. He'd have to be chaotic good. Oh, Jim, next time I'm at the Smithsonian, I'll go definitely see you. I've never played the Vampire the Masquerade game, but I have heard of it. I heard it's good. Oh, the exciting, yes, Noah. The exciting, okay, there's a few things. I have to do the commercials. First of all, Noah has Hell of a Party, which is a book set in the PPD. So make sure that if you haven't picked this up, go get it. It's a new, is it a short, Noah? Is it a story? Is it a long story? I think it's a short story, but it's on pre-order. Go grab a copy, first of all. Then Noah, John, Martha, Michael, Rami, there's a whole bunch of us that are in the anthology, which is what the Perfect Cup was for, and it's coming out July 31st, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll make sure to put it up in the mob and make sure you guys all get a copy because it's for the American Library Disaster Relief Fund. So that's a great cause. And the book would be, the anthology will be out for, I think, at least a good 6 months. And then all the stories revert back to the authors. So get yourself Hell of a Party, which is Noah's next release, and the Hungry, Young, and Clever, I believe it's called, the anthology that we're all part of, and that'll be coming out at the end of this month. So yeah, thanks for the reminder, Noah. I appreciate it. Hello, Sabrina. Welcome. You have about 5 minutes. So yeah. Oh, 50K. So it's not a short. It is a novel. So yes. So grab that copy. It looks like a lot of fun. The cover is a lot of fun. Bert features heavily in it. If you don't know who Bert is, you really need to go read Southeast Asia PPG, because how could you not know who Bert is? And go grab copies of everything that Noah has written and everything that's in the PPD. Go grab a copy. Really, shame on you if you don't know. Yes, Chaotic Good. I don't think, yeah, it is a continuum. So, but I can't see Simon doing something that he would know is inherently evil. It's just against his nature. Chaotic Good, heavy on the chaos sometimes, mostly on the good, but he has his own moral compass. So he's gonna go where he thinks is good, and sometimes what he thinks is good may not be good to someone else. Yeah, Davina, I'm really sorry you weren't able to get in on that. Monty and Strong 9 is coming up in a few weeks for the art, so you have to be in on that one. So I'll make sure that you're on it, or else we will both be harassing John to make sure you get on it, because you need to be able to shred that one. It's important. All right, guys, we're wrapping this up. We got like 3 or 4 minutes. So if you have any last questions, let me know. And if not, I'm going to get some lunch. I'm starving. Jeez. Finish my coffee, then get some lunch, and then jump into Monty and Strong 9, who's having an encounter with Esty. If you guys know who Esty is, 1 billion kajillion internet points. If you know who Esty is. All right, any last questions? Not that you can't ask them in the mob, you can, but I could answer them right now. I appreciate all of you. I really do. Guys, I can't do this without you. I can write, I can make stories, but you guys read them and you make them better, and you jump into the art, and each day we talk about the posts, and so I appreciate each and every one of you. You make this possible, and it's pretty awesome. That sounds really good, right, Jim? Bye, Davina. Have a great rest of your day. I know it's evening almost there, so have a great rest of your evening. Thank you, Jenny. I really enjoy these. I was a little reluctant to do them at first, but I look forward to them now. So I'm kind of bummed that this month we were only able to do 1, but next month we'll do 2. So that's awesome. Yes. See, that sounds like one of those words we need to be using. Nattering is awesome, and gromishing. I like that one. I'm trying to see who would use those words in a Monty and Strong, but probably Dex would use that. Sure, Jim, you're always welcome. And they're all recorded, so you can find them. right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. First of all, I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend because it's Friday. We always do these on Fridays. And thank you all for being here and commenting and sharing. And I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. And we're going to close it. So I will remind you. Yes, I will definitely remind you, Laura. And nattering the bobs of nincompoopery. Thanks, Jim. As on that note, I think we should end. It sounds very Monty Python-esque. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll do this. I'll set the dates for next month. And I'm going to get back to writing. So have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.